as Ted likes to say, well, let's have Ted say it.
The fastest hour on the internet.
He's been doing that one for almost a year. He doesn't do
Over
it.
a year.
He doesn't do over a year. He doesn't do it consistently, but he does it a lot. And I'm going to do something that I don't think many people on television or whatever we want to call this, podcasting or will do this. But I always believe in being as open as possible. So I'm going to have you look at me, and I'm going to have you guess what's wrong, because I take my first break, I'm going to change it. And if you can, it has to do. Obviously, it has to do with something in here, right? In here. There's something that I did wrong in getting dressed. And since I am a stickler for this, for example, I watched the Newsmax New Year's Eve, and I love them. There's no way a reflection on John. I think John is a terrific news person, a terrific person, particularly great political ideas, and he did a hell of a job on that show. And he was on for 3.5 hours with Cara Castronova, and and the third lady was terrific too. I don't know her as well. Who was on? Find out, so we give her the right credit, okay? But we and the two of us, Mike and I, watched a lot of it together. And wouldn't you say they were great?
Oh yeah,
John and Cara, of course, we know better. But
that was John Burnett.
John Burnett.
Yeah, John Burnett.
But
yeah,
his tie was off by this much.
Good dimple though.
Fabulous dimple, better than I can do, but better than I think you can do.
Very good dimple.
He had a great. I get a dimple by accident. In other words, I try. Sometimes I try, and I get frustrated. So I can't get it. And sometimes when I get it, I just leave the tie alone. I just say, don't touch it. But I have from the time I was little watching Meet the Press, I get annoyed when a man's tie is off. And when mine's off, which has happened on a few, I get rid of the interview. I don't keep a copy of it. I mean, it could have been a great interview. It could have been my best interview. It could have been ingenious remarks, once in a lifetime remarks. But if my tie is off, forget it. Something's off tonight. Not as important as a tie. Otherwise, I would have gotten off the air and changed it. So, what do we start with tonight? Tonight, let's start with what's going on in Israel, because I think it's quite significant. Although the anti-Jewish press will not make it significant, that Israel is really fighting a two-front war. The situation with Hezbollah over Christmas heated up. And it heated up, of course, with Hezbollah taking the first step. But Israel jumped on it right away. And Hezbollah pounded 5 Israeli cities over the Christmas weekend. And Israel came back and pounded mercilessly a lot of the encampments that Hezbollah uses in what should really be a demilitarized zone of a number of miles between the Israeli border and the border of Lebanon and Syria. And they are going at it hot and heavy. I'll give you the cities in Israel that were hit: Rehovot, Nes Ziona, Holon, Sidrot, and Ashhad. But right away, Israel hit right back with a barrage of rocket fire right after New Year's Eve. And I don't think Iran wants that war. So we'll have to see what happens. Every bit of information that I have from people who know Iran really well say that Iran does not want a major confrontation with Israel or the United States right now, because they're in the middle of getting themselves there on a nuclear weapon that they're comfortable with, and in sufficient quantity to be competitive. And they sure don't want to take on Israel. That even if they had a couple of nukes, which I'm not sure they do, Israel denies being a major nuclear power. Let's put it this way. We'll do it as a hypothetical. If Israel were a nuclear power, you know it would be a major one, right? Okay. So they don't want to come into the ball game. You know, they don't want to enter the ball game being a rookie league team against one of the playoff contenders. So that was the beginning of the 2024 war in the North, which has become now more of a factor. At the same time, Gaza, according to, and strangely, the Wall Street Journal, not the Times, although the Times I'm sure would have an article like this, did a crybaby piece on how Gaza is being destroyed, stands out in modern history. Now, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that that the Wall Street Journal would fall for this kind of just total trash propaganda from Hamas. This is like, the kind of propaganda they put out in the First World War. They're animals and all this other stuff. This is the worst destruction in modern times. Is the Wall Street Journal so young that they forget Berlin and the cities in Germany? You knew Henry Kissinger. All you had to do is talk to Henry for a few minutes, and he'd tell you about his walking through the German cities after the war, and nothing was left. And these were quite a bit more developed cities than in Gaza, which is an S-hole. Let's face it. It wasn't when Israel had it, but because Hamas, because the West and all of the geniuses in the West sent them money all the time, they made Hamas wealthy, they made Fatah wealthy, and they made the Palestinians poor. And Gaza has been 40% of the buildings are down. I mean, they're cities in warfare in the last 50 years, 100% of the city has been done away with. So nearly 70% of 490,000 homes and about half of the buildings have been damaged or destroyed. Maybe they should have thought of that before the animals going back to the time of Muhammad, the 7th century or so, came across the border and started deliberately going after old ladies, old men, children, raping girls after they were dead, chopping heads off, chopping body parts off, letting children watch their parents having their heads cut off, taking hostages, taking a baby hostage. Maybe they should have thought of that before they start complaining to the Wall Street Journal that their country is getting destroyed. They weren't dealing with Joe Biden. Had they been dealing with Joe Biden might have helped them do it, just out of fear that they get angry at him. But Bibi is not Joe Biden. He's a man, a soldier, brave soldier, with a brother who was one of the legendary heroes of the IDF. Remember Antivi? So this is ridiculous for them to be complaining. Bibi announced immediately, we're going to destroy Hamas. And Hamas hides in these buildings. They hide about the only thing sophisticated about them is their canal system or their underground a tunnel system. It's also a canal, by the way, it leads out to the water. So this is to be expected if you go kill 1,200 citizens of a country and you focus on just civilians. So the civilians being killed in Gaza are being killed, and even if you want to believe the worst about the Israelis, they're being killed as collateral damage to having to destroy Hamas that is dedicated to the destruction of the state of Israel. If you have a neighbor who is next to you and is dedicated to the destruction of your country, there is going to come a time until they stop being dedicated, you're going to have to kill them. Unless you want to die. And if you're in charge, it isn't just about your life. It's about, unless you want your people to die. So Bibi's decision is a very, very sound decision for which he should be applauded as a fine leader. Whatever his responsibility for not having good enough intelligence or whatever else, it's a different issue. You want to know about his response to it. Couldn't do it better. Couldn't do it better. You could have Ronald Reagan. You could have Donald Trump. You could have Abraham Lincoln. You couldn't have done it better. They would have done the same thing because they were men and they were, and when I say men, they could have been women. I mean, they were brave and wise and protectors. That's what you need in a leader. You need a protector. You need someone who can protect other people, who can make wise decisions that protect other people, who doesn't let his fear take over like Biden, who is destroying Ukraine with that fear, by the way. We'll get to that later. So Israeli court reform was rejected by their Supreme Court 8-7, which is unfortunate. This, of course, has been another left propaganda mission where the things that Bibi wants to do with the court are seen as horrible, terrible. He's going to end democracy. And first of all, courts are really not about democracy. They're about the rule of law. You know, you don't win or lose a court based on majority decisions. It's what's right, what's wrong, what's lawful, what's not lawful, not where, 6 out of 10 people think it's lawful. So this idea that this is killing democracy is crazy. You want to say killing the rule of law, fine. But let's think about some of the things he wants to change here. The court appoints itself. Now, you know what's going to happen when a court appoints itself. They're going to become not judges, but a bureaucracy. Almost like almost like a royal family. You're not in the family, you don't get appointed, which means you all have the same viewpoint. And of course, they go back somewhat to the early days of Israel, which was a socialist state, completely inconsistent with the changes that Bibi made in the 90s, for which they should erect a statue of him in every single city in Israel. He changed them into a capitalist country. The reason that Israel is per capita, in the running for one of the, I would say, richest countries in the world, but for its size, maybe, right? Certainly one of the most productive. You want to learn about cybersecurity, which I did as a business for a while. I went to Israel twice a year to learn. I used to go out to the desert where you can't imagine the things that these young men and women do. This is an extraordinary country. It's an extraordinary country, and we are fortunate to have them as a friend. And they are braver than. So the idea, I mean, the idea that they should be held back before they get to the point of destroying Hamas, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that comes from the overall cowardice, which I think of appeasement as cowardice. I think of Chamberlain as one of the great cowards of the 20th century who played a very big role in getting not just 6 million Jewish people killed, but 6 million Orthodox and 6 million dissenters, and then who knows how many in the war. A brave man may have stopped that. A Churchill in charge in the 30s might have stopped that. A Roosevelt without communists around him might have stopped that. A Roosevelt without communists around him, we may never have had a Cold War. We certainly would not have had a divided Germany. You can be sure of that. Lots of people died because of that. So the Israelis knocked off 2 major Hamas leaders. And today, all I heard on left-wing television is, it's not that important to kill leaders. because other leaders can come along and take their place. So they killed Adel, and they couldn't even pronounce his name because they're also not well educated. I didn't realize until now that these Ivy League schools are for shit. I didn't know that. They don't teach. The guys with the stop occupying Gaza. Israel stopped occupying Gaza, nitwits, in 2005. Not only that, since then, they don't even want to think about Gaza, much less occupy it. This isn't colonial. Colonial, which is unfortunately been foisted on us by the communist-trained Prince Obama. And it's a totally ahistorical view of colonialism. Israel is not a colonial power. Israel did not take the land. The land was given to them the way the other land here was given to them. So let's take a look here. So you see this, Israel's so small, it's really hard on this map to see it. Here's Israel. Look at this. These people all hate him. Well, no, not Egypt, but it used to, right? These people all hate him. And there they are, the Jews. Remember when they all attacked them from all sides? Egypt attacked them this way. Syria, Jordan, right? Came this way. Who knows who else? Anybody else they could get. And the Jews won in 7 days. And that's how they won the territory. At the time when I was in high school, I think. At the time I said, man, I got that territory. I'd never give it back. And it was, by the way, the territory they took was originally intended for them in the original UN resolution. Israel came about with a resolution first by the League of Nations. Well, first a declaration by Lord Balfour, and then the League of Nations, but the League of Nations sort of broke up because of the Second World War. And finally, the United Nations. The United Nations also set the boundaries of Iraq, set the boundaries of Jordan here. Look how much bigger Jordan is than Israel. So who got the big deal here? They readjusted and in essence set the boundaries of Syria. And they didn't really have Egypt. I mean, Egypt, of course, is an ancient biblical, goes back to biblical times. So these countries were given to them, as were like the Emirates, and these are created countries. They didn't come in and throw out the people that were there. Basically, they came in and there was sand there. It was not a productive country. It was a useless piece of land. And the Palestinians, many, many more of them, or at least an equal number, lived in Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. Arafat's Egyptian. But when Israel was formed, Jordan threw out 1 million, Lebanon, Syria, and Egypt threw out all the Palestinians because they were a pain. They were difficult to deal with. So now we've got a situation in which Gaza has been taken under control by Israel. They haven't yet eliminated Hamas. They say they need that it's going to be a long war. But by long war, they're talking months, not years, compared to Ukraine. I don't know why we're complaining about it. We've been back in Ukraine for over a year now. We've put 130 billion into Ukraine, and we want to put 65 billion more. So far, we've authorized 14 billion for Israel, and it's been a couple months. And I got to tell you, strategically, this is much more important to us. We're going to show you why when we come back. We'll be right back. And I'm going to change.
Our device is something that you can plug into your television And now you can use your television as a social television type experience. So in the Portal universe, you can watch your favorite content creators' videos, live streams, music. We also have TV subscriptions as well.
TV subscriptions.
You can also
regular channels, all the sports.
Right, you can actually cut your cable from your cable subscription and get QUX TV on our QX TV boxes, and you can pay half the price that you're currently paying for your cable television subscription, and you can get all the best premium TV channels and more. I mean, it's really, there's so much on there, Rudy. I mean, you've seen it.
No, I've seen it and I use it, and it's good. I mean, it's great. It's just exactly the same except for half the price. Plus, nobody is finding out what I'm watching, and that's not being reported to anybody.
Right, so you have absolute privacy using this device, which you don't have on other devices out there currently on the market.
This is absolutely great. QUX.TV is how you can find out about it. QUX.TV.
Use promo code RUDY to receive $30 off.
Right next to it, right?
Hey, Chuck, what do you think you could be?
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
July, Mayor.
I'm back. Who got it? What was wrong?
I'm checking the chat.
No, let's wait until something comes in, and then I'll announce what was wrong.
Okay.
It's now fixed. It's now fixed. I feel much better. So the reason for the important nature of this is, frankly, this and this. What do I mean by that? Oil, right? Oil, lots of oil, lots of oil. Right here. This is the, or as they say in Brooklyn, this is the Earl Kingdom. Natural gas. And there's the passageway for it, right? So you save money and save time. The Canal of Suez, which starts here and ends here. But to access it going toward Europe and America, right, you have got to go through the Red Sea. So this has to be open to the world. And if Iran accomplishes what it wants, they will do to the world what they do to their population. They'll act like the mafia acted when they controlled private carting in New York. They will extort the way Muhammad taught them to do. They'll extort in order to make fortune for themselves so they can support terrorism. And they'll close it off here. And they'll close it off all along the way. Now, this is essentially what they're doing terrorist style right now with the Houthis. Who are they? They're down here, the Houthis. The Houthis are a Muslim extremist group who are Shia, which relates them, Yemen, to Iran because they are Shia. They're Sunni. See the problem? Yes, you do. Well, not really if you don't know the history. Okay? So there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of present here. And this is not all about Israel. But any war here completely destroys the national security, energy security of a lot of the world. And this has to remain a peaceful place. And the United States Navy has been the source of that. And before that, the British Navy the two of them together for centuries. And really, it only became critical beyond navigation when oil was discovered in the early part of the 20th century. Now, we're going to have a special on that. We're going to have a special, both a shorter one and a longer one, because this year I'm going to do something, what you need to know about. I'm going to do pieces called What You Need to Know About, so that when we get into these discussions of these countries, we're going to make you like Henry Kissinger. I loved Henry. Henry was my client at one time, you should know, when I was a child. And he was one of the people that had great confidence in me. And I would say he was enormously helpful to my career and reputation because I did a good job in advising him. Because I was one of the few people that could stand up to him in a nice way also. And because he is a very, very smart person and he appreciates very smart people. And as a result of that, I took advantage of his friendship for many, many years to get a free, not a doctor's degree, but at least a master's degree from him. Because I would have lunch with him. I would really impose upon him. When I have lunch with him no more than maybe 2-3 times a year. When I was mayor, I would do it at Gracie Mansion. When I wasn't, he always liked to go to, we used to go to Le Cirque a bit and we would spend 2-3 hours and he would lecture me on the world because I never had a chance to travel. I always wanted to. And then when I left being mayor, which would have been in 2002, I went to 150 countries. Some of them multiple times, like England, Japan. I had businesses in Japan. I went to at least 90 different ones. And when I went, I would meet with the political leadership, the heads of state. I worked for some of them, like the present president of Mexico. And it really was fulfilling a lifelong ambition of wanting to travel the world. And really, my great interest was foreign policy. So I will share that with you because here's what I loved about Henry. Not all his conclusions. I mean, he and I split on China a while back. Not at the beginning. At the beginning, I thought it was perfect. And we split a bit on détente. I never ever thought détente was useful except as a temporary matter, which is why I was an acolyte and I hero worship Ronald Reagan. But Henry Kissinger approached foreign policy historically. If you read Henry's books, which I really recommend even now for any of the problems in the world, no one describes the history of these places the way Henry Kissinger does. And because it isn't a history book, it's in service of explaining current foreign policy. He does it briefly. He does it quickly. He does it in a way that's accessible to a non-expert audience. And all of a sudden, you start to realize that, for example, a lot of the hatred between these people and these people is Persian, Arab. That predates Muhammad. And the Persians thought they were more important, more cultured, more civilized, and looked down on the Arabs. The Arabs obviously felt opposite. And then they both became Muslims. But they became, as you might imagine, extremely different kind of Muslims. They became they became Sunni. They became Shia. And what was the thing that has split them? That was the most obvious, the proximate cause. It was about succession to Muhammad. When Muhammad died, the question was, were we going to have another leader? And they used the name, I don't know if they used it for Muhammad, but for Muhammad's successor, they used the name Caliph, which is why it's called the Caliphate. And the Sunnis wanted it to be a relative of Muhammad. Now, part of the reason for that is Muhammad was an Arab. He was not a Persian. So if it was going to be a relative of Muhammad, it's got to come from here, not from here. They wanted it to be elected, not probably more like the kind of election Democrats run, not like a really, like I would imagine in those days, maybe they didn't even cheat as much as we do. I don't know. I don't know if they knew about how to make up phony paper ballots or fixed machines or stuff. But in any event, they wanted to elect the caliph, and the first couple of caliphs were selected on relationships. That really separated these two. They kind of went to war with each other. Then one was elected, and he was killed, and he's known as the missing caliph, and they have all kinds of ceremonies about him coming back. And they also took on a different bit of religious practice. I'm not familiar enough with their liturgy, a teeny bit, to tell you, but the Sunnis are considerably more austere, and their religious practice and their liturgy is very, I wouldn't say rigid. Oh gosh, it'd be the difference. Let's go to Protestant for a moment. It'd be like the difference between an Episcopalian service, that'd be the Saudis, or maybe Lutheran, right? And an evangelical. But I'm talking about a kind of really emotional evangelical. Or the difference between the Sephardic and the Ashkenazi Jews. The Sephardic are very emotional, and the Ashkenazi are very, I wouldn't say they're not emotional, but they're much more austere. And then they would just find ways to disagree and go to war all the time. So the underlying ethnic division turns into a religious division, and now you have thousands of years of hatred. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand what you're dealing with. Now, they are able, with smaller countries, to bridge that. So part of the Iranian Empire would include some Sunni countries that find their form of extreme Islam more desirable than Saudi Arabia. So it isn't 100%, but it's a good way to understand this. So if this, I'm giving you this because I really do believe these are the things we can accomplish with America's Mayor Confidential. That'll be very valuable to you in the next election, because you're going to need this background information. It'll also be very valuable to you to help your friends and your children live in the new world of propaganda. We don't have news any longer. We just have propaganda. They used to exaggerate. They used to make it emotional. Now they tell totally false stories or leave things out. And what that requires of you is doing your own work, finding your own sources, and having your own understanding. And some of it is of history, because they don't understand history. They're ahistorical. So we're going to have this specials that'll be on along with along with documentaries and other things on America's Mayor Confidential. And you can get it by going to X, formerly known as Twitter, and hit subscribe for $10 a month. And the more current ones coming up now will be what you need to know about the Iowa caucus. We'll tell you how the Iowa caucus works. So when you watch it and the lead up to it, and we'll put it out about a week before, you'll understand how it works, because it's very, very different than the New Hampshire primary. And we'll do it on the New Hampshire primary and how it works, because it's probably different than the election in your state or country. And we'll do a little on the history of it and what it means, because the day the New Hampshire primary is over, we know either we have a president candidate or we got a long war like in Israel. So I am extremely frustrated because we're taking the Iranian decoys, aren't we? The Iranians control, just take this as a given, and I think we've proved it over time, but we'll have even more pieces on this. But Iran runs Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Now, here's where they are, because they each have territory. Hamas is, of course, in Israel, and they control Gaza. And I particularly like this map because I think it shows you what you remember for the rest of your life if you go to Israel. You remember for the rest of your life how difficult it is to secure that land. Look at it. This is like being put in a place and surrounded by everybody who wants to kill you. I mean, thank God that some of these countries, I mean, they made peace with Egypt a while back, but the man isn't given the credit he deserves. And I'm talking about Donald Trump for the Abraham Accords. When we talk about historic, there hadn't been a peace treaty. There hadn't been a peace treaty there in two generations. And some great presidents tried to do it. Ronald Reagan wasn't a great president if you're a Republican, or Bill Clinton if you're a Democrat. They tried. The Bushes tried, and they were certainly very skilled in foreign policy. Obama didn't care because Obama is an enemy of the state of Israel. But take Obama out, and Biden, who can't even eat his own ice cream. He's not going to make peace. He's never, as Gates said, he's never made a correct foreign policy decision in his life. So, but you think of those presidents, skilled as hell. I mean, Carter, when I say that, Carter is the one who worked out the peace with Egypt. After that, nothing happened. What Donald Trump was able to do with the Abraham Accords is to work out peace with the UAE, with Qatar, Dubai, I believe Oman, certainly Bahrain. Now, why these look like small countries, but right over here, right? Could be this little piece of land here. That could be per capita the richest nation on earth, Qatar. Dubai, particularly Abu Dhabi right here, particularly Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi has all the oil. Dubai has all the nightclubs. But Qatar's richer. Qatar has the largest natural gas reserves anywhere. They're a little teeny country. And it's all over here. And Bahrain, which always lived off the charity of Saudi Arabia, has now discovered its own. And even Israel has discovered some out here. So this is very, very rich land. And this is the reason they're fighting over it. That's the reason they're fighting over it so much. But this geography has a disproportionate amount to do with the safety and security of the whole world. And we will have a special on America's Mayor Confidential, what you need to know about the geography of the Middle East, what you need to know about the geography of China, what you need to know about the geography of Ukraine. And we're not going to do the whole world. We'll do places that you need to know so that when you're reading the newspaper, if you read a newspaper, or you're listening to broadcasts or reading periodicals and magazines, you'll have your own knowledge to base it on. And I'll give it to you in a way you can go check it. I mean, I'll give you the places to go look and check me out. I'm sure not infallible.
You ever consider teaching history or geography?
Oh,
Mayor?
I've wanted to teach all my life.
You
I've
make
just
a
not
good
had the
history
time.
teacher.
I mean, I've
Time, yeah.
on and off. I've taught legal subjects. I've taught evidence a bit, and I've taught trial advocacy, ethics, but never. Would I like to teach history? Yeah, I'd love to teach history.
Well, Mayor, if former Mayor de Blasio can get a job at Harvard teaching,
Well, he doesn't teach history. He teaches how to change your sex or something. Huh?
They'll give anyone.
Or how to turn a lesbian into a heterosexual, and then after you stop being mayor, she becomes a lesbian again. I'll never forget when he stood up and he said, "I'm married to a lesbian who married me," and I think he said something suggesting, that he flipped her around. I doubt it.
Well, if I saw his wife, I mean, if I was his wife and I saw him in bed, I'd be more of a lesbian.
I don't know if I'm allowed to. I'm not really laughing. Please, Ted, would you please record this for history?
We will not refer
Let's do it in English.
to Bill de Blasio.
Find that very
No
much.
jokes here.
I find that very much below the dignity of this broadcast. We will take a short break as Ted and Mike and I tell some dirty jokes. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. This is Rudy Giuliani back again, stopping his role as a teacher. I wouldn't be accepted any longer. I don't know anything. When you get beyond 2 genders, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. So they would throw me out immediately. I mean, you got to know 58 genders now. I mean, I can guess at a couple. I might not agree with them, but at least I can guess at them. But like the 28th gender, what the hell is that? Can we at some point, and I will not do this and ridicule, I promise. Could someone get a list, and can you get it on the internet? If I were to go on the internet and I were to say, please give me the names of all of the genders, would they do that? Would they like list them for me? Absolutely. And say, can you give me an example of a esoteric gender?
Sure.
Just give me a crazy name.
Tell us what does the A stand for in LGBTQIA2S+. What does the A stand for?
Alfred? I don't know. What does the A stand for? Algonquin? Alpha male.
A, wrong.
Alpha male.
Oh no, that would be in
Alpha male.
That would be in the band.
We don't even. We're not even allowed anymore.
No.
Alpha. Epstein stands for Epstein. Is there an E in there for Epstein? Which is what we're going to talk about right now, because it was supposed to be today. Judge Prescott was going to release some of the names of the people who were with Epstein, I think I have this right, after he was convicted of child molestation, because the theory is people who were with him before might not necessarily have known, which is probably true. Look, Epstein led at least, I'm sure, many lives, but he led at least 2 lives. There were many people who thought of Epstein as a very successful investment advisor and very well positioned political Democrat, a big contributor. I didn't know. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't know. And I'm not running away from anything. When I heard his name and I saw his picture and I heard about him, I said, thank God I never met that guy. And who knows what they would say about you? Look what they've done to my friend, who I think has clearly proven that it's untrue. And he's got a great defamation case, Professor Dershowitz. But and Professor Dershowitz wanted these names released because I know he's not one of them. And it'll make it clear that when Dershowitz found out the second part of it, disgusting part, he stopped associating with him. What I'm talking about is somewhere in 2007 or 6 or whatever, he took a plea to a form of child abuse, child molestation. And although there were rumors about him up until that time, there was no real proof, I guess, of it. So now these are all these people that were with him. Now, here's my, without knowing it, this gets to be kind of, and I was glad to hear Alan tonight on One Nation or News Nation. I was very pleased to hear Alan clarify this, because guilt by association is extraordinarily dangerous. It's really dangerous. I mean, you don't know all the people you associate with. Most people don't tell you the secrets of their lives. Now, if a person is a pedophile, they're going to probably live in normal society. You break it off. How much time did they spend with him? Did they go to the island with him? So I would think if you went to the island with him, it's not proof, but it'd be probably pretty hard to avoid, the 14-year-old girls and wondering, and if you're an intelligent person, what the hell are the 14-year-old girls doing here? However, if your association with him was in New York, Hollywood, or Washington business, I don't imagine he was going around telling you I'm a pedophile. Oh, me, I had it on his card, financial advisor and pedophile. He didn't do that. And many people he did legitimate business with. He also made a fortune, and he was not particularly good at what he did. So I am sure that some of that money is extortion money. I'm sure some of that money is paid by people that he had shammed up, right? I mean, nowadays, I don't know, if you get revealed as a pedophile, you probably get elected president, particularly in Hollywood where they reduced the penalties for pedophilia. But, there was a time not too long ago that if you were accused of pedophile, most people were really angry at you, which I would think would be the case, huh? And when Hollywood and California reduced the penalties for it, I said, man, that's a giveaway.
Well, Mayor,
that's a giveaway. They got to have a hell of a lot of them there.
Speaking from experience, because I work at Rikers Island.
And it was please, may I make it really clear? It was the damn Democrats who did it.
If you come in jail and the inmates know that
they'll beat the shit.
If you're a pedophile or a rapist or something, you go automatically.
Even a rapist, like a rapist of an adult woman, or
yes, you automatically go in protective custody because they know they're going to try to kill you.
But I see the pedophile part in jail. I ran the Bureau of Prisons. Didn't really run it. Norm Carlson ran it, but Norm Carlson reported to me and worked for me. So I had a lot to do with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And I always thought the problem was with the pedophiles because there's a lot of rape in prison, adults rape. And there's also consensual sex in prison. There's another group too. They don't like traitors.
Like rats.
No, rats. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, you could rat on somebody they hate and they'll kill you.
That's right.
It's just the idea of ratting. Well, also because think about it, in a way, it's self-protection. If you're ratted once, you might rat again.
Yeah.
On them. Right?
Yeah, right.
There's a little bit of protecting yourself against a rat. But they also they take on this sort of false patriotism. I don't know what it is, but please explain to me why they clapped for me when I went there. I was a little, I was kind of, first I was shocked by it because every time I used to go to Rikers with Bernie or his brother, man, first time I went, I took several of my staff with me, several being female. Never took the females again. The stuff they were yelling out to those girls,
You still do it.
I didn't take them again. I just went with males. And they would do you're being a sexist. I said, no, I'm not, being a gentleman.
It's not Rikers Island isn't a place for even female correctional.
So what the hell
officers.
is going on with Epstein? First of all, why did it take so long to find out who the hell was with him? And why is the judge, and Alan raised this point, and I think this judge, by the way, is an exceptionally good judge. This judge has a terrific record, and I would hesitate, without knowing the facts, to suggest that she ruled incorrectly. But at least without a fact, it's hard to understand why she would put out only some of the names. Unless they were only with him occasionally, in which case you could make I could see keeping out someone that was with him only one time. In fact, I don't even think you should include somebody with him only one time. If you were with him only one time, first of all, he's not going to reveal his whole life to you. If you're with him one time, he's going to be careful to hide it from you. This is a guy who deliberately and very skillfully hid part of his life from half the world, if not 2/3 of the world. So I would think the only people that you would put out that were with him would be people that were with him on, you could pick a certain number of occasions, and also where they went with him, like on the plane to the island, as opposed to on the plane to New York, or on the plane to Chicago, or on the plane to Los Angeles, unless there's evidence that there were young girls on the plane. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or are you guys just sleeping now?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they get sleepy. They're young. They can't keep up with me. Oh, that's because, and I have even had my da-da-da-da. Did we put the commercial on yet?
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I'm actually catching up on. I'm catching up on the story here. I don't know if you saw Aaron Rodgers, the former Packer, now New York Jets quarterback, had come out today, kind of insinuating that Jimmy Kimmel, the unfunny late night host, may be on one of these lists. Or basically, what Aaron said was Jimmy Kimmel doesn't want any of this to come out. He didn't say it directly, and Kimmel is now threatening to sue Aaron Rodgers. So stew on that.
Jimmy Kimmel is going to have to overcome. But Jimmy Kimmel would be treated like a political, like an elected official under Times Against Sullivan. So he'd have to prove that Aaron Rodgers did it maliciously, knowing that it's untrue. And I bet there's a reason for it that Rodgers has for doing it.
Rodgers said it because Jimmy Kimmel made fun of Aaron Rodgers. Well, Jimmy Kimmel called Aaron Rodgers basically a tin hat conspiracy theorist for wanting to know about the Epstein list and for some of his COVID stuff. So Aaron Rodgers was in the right. He's basically.
Well, he's not in the right. He's not in the right unless he had something that would support saying that Kimmel didn't want it to come out.
So why is Jimmy Kimmel allowed to call him a conspiracy theorist? And he's allowed to say he's a tin hat wearer. You know what?
I got you. That's a pretty good argument.
Let's clarify. I'm not saying that's for sure true. I'm saying it's fine for Aaron Rodgers, another man with a public platform, to shoot back with something.
I would think you'd throw that case
as a joke.
On the Times Against Sullivan, you throw that case out. But in any event, and they can both defend themselves on. They don't need to get a court involved. I mean, they both have a public platform. They've got people that agree with them and disagree with them. And frankly, the people who like Jimmy Kimmel won't agree with it. The people who don't like it will love it, and vice versa with Rogers.
Right.
So, and in any event, if they feel any stress or difficult, they can get. I'll sell either one of them.
The balance of nature.
And particularly Rogers, because I like him better. Balance of Nature. Fruits.
Get your fruits and vegetables. Balanceofnature.com.
Vegetables.
And use that promo code Rudy.
Vegetables. Let's do phonetics. Vegetables, otherwise known as veggies. Fruits has no fruities, but then you make it longer. This is fabulous. I'm telling you, I'm not even going to make a big pitch for this tonight, because if you don't buy it, you're a jerk.
Well, be sure to get it. Of course, we enter the new year. What a better way than
I'm telling you, this is really good for you. Do yourself a favor, try it for 3 months and tell me you don't feel better. I think you're going to feel better after 3 weeks, but try it for 3 months and tell me that you don't feel better.
Now's the time to do it. Health-related New Year's resolutions. That must be the top, right? That must be the top New Year's resolution.
As they
Something
say,
related to health.
New year, new me. That's the saying. That's the saying. That's this they say. So if you really want to be a new person, you're going to buy Balance of Nature, and that's it.
But suppose you don't mind being you.
Yeah, what if I'm okay being me? The me of last year.
Everyone says new year, new me. So do something good for yourself and buy
Well,
Balance
that's
of
because
Nature.
most people don't like themselves.
You must not like that. Yeah. I can improve.
I kind of like me.
A better version of me, but I don't want a new me.
Everybody else hates me, but I kind of like me.
We don't hate
No, man, that's not true.
Well, you know who does.
Go.
Yeah.
Well, why do they want to put me in jail if they don't hate me?
Only liberals want to put you in jail.
Because you're loved.
Yeah,
Because the
that's right.
people love you,
Yeah.
and so they want to.
Do you think it's unfair that the deal should be, if I'm going to go to jail, I mean, Trump should not be allowed to go to jail without me, and I shouldn't be allowed to go to jail without Trump. At least we could have fun together. Oh, Dr. Maria got all upset with that. She thought that was a bad joke. She's much more sensitive to these things than I am. But I know all kinds of jail jokes. You can't imagine. I ran the Bureau of Prisons. The Italian guys in Atlanta, you would like this. They used to get the best food. They get it brought down from New York. And then when they get food, like somebody couldn't get the right food for them, and they try to sneak something in on them, that could be cause for a hit. Hey, this mozzarella doesn't come from Italy. What do you mean? How do we get it from Italy? Rocco up in the Bronx, he gets a shipment from Italy 3 times a week. Now you get somebody up there and just have him drive it right down here to Atlanta, huh? Don't mess around. No messing around here. Look, it's bad enough we got to be sitting here in this rat hole. The rat hole looked better than most of the places everybody's living in except the illegal immigrants. Our poor homeless people and our veterans don't live in the things that the illegal immigrants live in. So we're going to be back tomorrow at 3:00 on WABCRadio.com. And then we'll be here tomorrow night at 8 for America's Mayor Live. And also, you can get me on America's Mayor Confidential at any time on X, formerly known as Twitter. Just do Rudy Giuliani. And my first time that I tweeted it out, I did it without the help of Dr. Maria or Ted, and I did it wrong. And I did it 2 different ways. I did at Rudy Giuliani and at Rudy W. Giuliani. Apparently, Rudy W. Giuliani is a fictitious site. So I have it corrected now. It's at Rudy Giuliani. But could I ask what's on the fictitious site, or is it word
it goes to
and
nothing? But how the mighty have fallen. That Newsweek, the once great Newsweek, this great magazine. I think of the big covers from years ago. The old Newsweek. within 30 minutes, right, they got to post a little, a little blog post, we'll call it, about the mayor's little social media hiccup, which everybody goes through. And I just find it so, I don't even know what word to use, right? Just sad. I feel really bad for our friends.
Well,
at
with the
Newsweek.
stuff that they
Newsweek-
write about me, I mean, at least it's true.
Yeah,
I'm not even upset about it. I made a mistake. Oh,
God forbid.
but it's like the kid
but
in
you know,
class, right?
there's probably now they're working on what's the ulterior motive for it.
Right.
I was trying to start an insurrection. I was
Somehow
trying to
it's
start
connected
an
to that.
insurrection.
Mm-mm.
Well, we will see you tomorrow night, where we can come up with more of the news that's kept from you, and we can have and do it in a way in which it's entertaining and fun. God bless the people of Israel. God bless the people of the United States, and God bless America. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,